Welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell, where we will explore the challenges of businesses moving from a face-to-face training mode to an online training environment. Many businesses have been caught off guard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the situation is proving to be a catalyst for new possibilities and opportunities for the training industry. Let me and my guests help you make the most of these opportunities and to navigate the transition so that you and your organisation come out stronger and more resilient than when you went in. Education is the answer and you are the leader. Hi and welcome to Education in Isolation podcast. In today's interview, we're going to be having a chat with Bruno. Bruno manages and owns a operations system company, so it's a learning management system. He was just explaining to me a few things and we're going to learn a lot more about that today. And also it can bring in online training within that system. So hi Bruno, how are you?
Hi Angela and hi listeners.
So who are you and what do you do?
I'm the managing director of Blue Gem Software. We've been around for 30 years, and in that time we've spent probably the last 10 years, I guess, working in the learning, education, and particularly the vet sector. So Blue Gem is really an application development house. We develop software for business applications, and in this recent period, when I say recent, I'm talking about the last 10 years, in fact, we've been developing primarily online and face-to-face learning management systems. The introduction that we had into this field came from a client who was in the oil and gas industry and was responding to a question that was put to them by one of their customers in Canada. And this particular scenario was that they wanted to be able to capture the knowledge of people who were in the industry and were in fact contractors. So they have a lot of contractors in the oil and gas industry. And what was happening was that these people would come in, they do a lot of projects. As a result of that, there would be a lot of lessons learned. Those lessons would be learned for them personally, and then they'd move on to the next contract and take all that knowledge with them. So the predominant kind of idea of this application was that it would allow the company to capture the knowledge from these contract services. So we built that.
Started as a knowledge management system then?
A knowledge management system, exactly right.
Yeah.
So during that period, we thought, well, how do we translate this to the Australian environment and learning and education rather than just knowledge capture or not just, because it actually was quite a comprehensive system. So that's when I started looking into the vet sector and learning about the sector, what it is, what its requirements are, how it manages students and so forth. And it would have been probably 2008 when we decided to enter an R&D phase, if you like, which was migrating what was really a knowledge capture system into a student management system. Back then, it was just a student management system. And as we became more interested in that, we, at the same time, both Lynn and I were doing online learning as far back as that. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be good if we could integrate our online learning kind of knowledge and what we've learned about online learning into this product? And that's where we decided, well, hey, this is more than a student management system. Let's call it a training management system, in that it includes student management and learning management. So that's where the concept came from, and that's how we got started. Yeah, my background is that I spent 9 years in the Royal Navy back in the 70s, in fact, and my my role back then was a technical role in that I looked after radar and telecommunication systems, got very interested in electronics. After I completed the Navy, I did my degree in electronic engineering. That, even back then, it's more so now, but even back then, there was a lot of computing and digital kind of electronics involved. So I got interested in computing and software in that way. As time went on, more and more stuff was done by computers and online systems. So that meant that the interest and the knowledge, or the need in the industry, was to learn more about computing and software. So that's where that background comes in. I was pretty heavily involved in project management and design and development, research and development, in fact, for a lot of companies in the UK, and commissioned to do work from Australia. I was commissioned to do work in Canada. I've kind of mentioned the Canadian experience, which was this knowledge capture thing. But also we were into paging systems and a lot of communication systems. So that took me into Southeast Asia. Spent a lot of time with LG, for instance, in Korea, South Korea. So, yeah, a lot of experience around the world in those sort of technologies. Finland, where we were implementing trunking systems. So, yeah, all of that background kind of led to where we are today, which was to look at how training and education is delivered, how it's managed, and also the various technologies that sit around it.
And so your market now is not only registered training organisations, you're stating corporate training as well?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. We've found that the background, not only of myself but other team members, is that corporate background. They come from things like IT positions within large organisations, and as part of that, they've learned a lot of system administration and so forth, and how to set up business systems within the organisation. So between us, we have got a significant amount of that kind of corporate knowledge, and we thought it's in order to look at the area where we can service the market, putting together that training knowledge into the corporate environment, in other words, workforce planning and development, seemed to be a good fit for our background, and also the knowledge that we bring to that industry.
Yeah,
that's where it came from.
Yeah, very good. So you have a wide variety of experience then, not just with private RTOs, it's also with the corporate market. So your system would be adjusted to those different areas.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what has been your biggest challenge to your business? And I would also like you to discuss with your clients. So if we look at the RTOs and we also look at the corporate sector since COVID-19.
Yeah. Look, the immediate reaction, I guess, to COVID was the same thing we all felt. We're going to have to, lay off staff. We're going to have to cut back, reduce costs, et cetera, et cetera. We were talking to our clients at the same time. Talking to our clients at the same time, and realised that they were in the same position. Many of our clients, in fact, did go and close shop. Sorry.
Oh dear. Yep.
That was quite an eye opener for us.
So were they the RTOs or the corporates, or both?
Mostly RTOs, but also one corporate. We had a shipping company, in fact, that provides training for ships captains and positioning. What they call it, dynamic positioning courses. They unfortunately had to shut shop because the COVID meant that there was no shipping, there was no need for their business, and they weren't getting any forward projected business either. So yeah, and that was symptomatic of a few people. So we've definitely seen a downturn and contraction in the market generally. So yeah, I guess our business is, as it is with all of us really, is affected directly by what our clients do. And if they're shutting shop, then that means that our business is contracting as well. We don't see that we're going to go out of business. I think the future is looking quite healthy for us. Mm-hmm. And despite losing a few clients, we've had a lot of interest recently. So there seems to have been a change of focus, if I'm honest. Whereas before, our clients were asking us questions about how to do face-to-face type training and technologies better. Now they're asking about how do we move into the online space? How do we embrace virtual classroom technology into our syllabus? And also, how do we convert a lot of our content to online? And, the fact that we've had these online capabilities for many years, without a interest, particularly in the RTO sector, the interest now is there to convert a lot of face-to-face training into online. So we're servicing a lot of those type of inquiries now.
And so what was the biggest problem or hurdle that they were challenged with transitioning from face-to-face to online?
Yeah, the fact that preparation, really. There was such a expectation that the face-to-face environment would continue forever, and why should we ever bother going online? So getting the content ready was a huge obstacle, and I guess still is. So that was one obstacle. The other was that the simple transition, I guess, is going to video conferencing. That, believe it or not, even though it requires a good camera and some differences in the way you set things up, how you actually engage with your students, how you invite your students to classes is different, obviously. But apart from those differences, moving from a face-to-face environment to a virtual classroom environment is relatively easy compared to taking all of your content and converting it into online content in SCORM packages, for example. So our first challenge was really to look at, well, how do we provide tools to help people make that transition? And really the challenge for them is about content. So helping is by really looking at, well, what material do you have? And let's look at the priority of your courses. What do you want to put online first? Because you can't put everything online all at once. And looking at ways to convert that content using things like Articulate 360 and other tools to help convert that content into online consumable content.
And were they doing like a combination of live feeds, like Zoom webinars and things like that, and then recording?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. A couple of clients have reported some good results from that. In fact, they had very quickly recognized that, hey, in order to survive, we're going to have to embrace video conferencing. Mm-hmm. At the very least, while we're thinking about how to transition our content to complete online courses. And what they were able to do was set up cameras, video their trainers in a classroom environment, and invite their students to video conferencing. So whereas couple of weeks ago, they would have been doing pure video conferencing. Now they're doing both. So they've got a classroom set up with live students in there, and also cameras set up so that people can join the classes through
the
video
live stream.
conferencing. Yeah, live stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
The challenge is, however, assessments. You can do a lot of assessments through quizzes and online essay-style questions, free text questions, for example, that can be submitted. Workbooks can be submitted and so forth. But so much of our assessment is, or not our assessment, but our clients' assessment, is about working with specialized equipment in specialized environment. So for them, it's about workforce. Not workforce, but more workplace assessment, and also being able to show videos of working on real live equipment, the electrical industry, for instance. So being able to use expensive equipment that you couldn't, very unlikely to have access to at home.
Yep.
So that type of assessment is still very much a challenge, and I don't think there are any quick answers to that. We have looked at simulation, so things like a lot of the electrical equipment, like PLCs, for instance. You can simulate those in the same way that pilots do a lot of their assessment in flight simulators. And obviously, because simulators are software, then that means that they can be managed remotely as well. But in order for the industries that we're working with to gear up for those types of simulators, we're talking about many, many years into the future. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, within COVID-19 era.
That's right.
And so you've talked about a few hurdles that you've faced and a few hurdles that your clients have faced. How much time did it take you to overcome them, and what was it that you implemented?
I can't say that any of the strategies that we employed as a consequence of COVID-19 have been implemented, in quotes, per se. It's kind of like a work in progress. So some of the things that we've looked at, for example, is what's important to an RTO if they have a large percentage of their clients or their students attending via a video conferencing tool. Well, it seemed to us that probably one of the most important areas is the student portal, being able to give them access to their course progress, to their finances. In other words, being able to pay their bills and see what their invoices are, being able to access their resources. All of that stuff meant that we already have a student portal, but the COVID-19 experience tells us that this student portal needs to be, improved, and it needs to have more tools available so that students who attend online can simultaneously work with their portal. For example, let's say that a student portal environment involves a conference call with a trainer, for instance, or a mentor. There's screen sharing involved in that. So I need to show my results, my latest work that I've done on assignments and so forth. By having a student portal, what they can do is pull up all of that information, and they can screen share that with their mentor or their trainer or assessor. So the student portal becomes like, it is in fact literally a doorway to the access that they would have if they were in that sort of classroom environment or had physical contact with the training staff.
And so did you add that to the portal then, that they could do live with their trainers?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that is there. In fact, we already had iChat facilities that students and trainers could use to engage with. We've had workflows that allow online discussions between trainers and students. What we've done, really, I suppose, is improve all of those tools to make them, how would you say, more relevant to this online and video conferencing type environment that we're looking at now. So it's more an improvement, an improved student portal, as opposed to a new student portal or substantially new tools.
Okay, and so what has the outcome been for your clients who are using these systems? They were struggling before. With the ones that did continue, what was the outcomes that they achieved?
It's again, that's still a work in progress, because as I mentioned earlier, it takes a while to transition what has been a face-to-face course with very, very little kind of intention or plans to put it online. It takes quite a while to actually convert that to a meaningful online course. So the transition process that most of our clients have taken up is, well, let's start with video conferencing, because at least that enables us to continue delivering our face-to-face courses to our clients. And as far as that goes, yes, very positive. And the results they're getting is that there's student uptake. Students can now attend those courses which they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. That's been positive, and we have got some metrics and results to show that. The online courses is still early days, because we haven't had enough clients
who've transitioned
to online courses yet. Yeah, to really know what the results are.
So have they mainly just been doing the live?
The interest is very high.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So mainly doing live, recording those, and then are they recording those, I'm assuming?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then getting ready.
So they're putting those into, and that's another advantage of having a student portal, is that students can access those recordings. So I couldn't attend the last session because whatever. So I can go in and look at I can go into the video gallery and pull down that class from that particular event.
Yeah.
So it's like it's great to see, because what we can see is a lot of our customers are turning into Netflix providers. In that, here's this stuff that you can do online, but by the way, you can go into this gallery and download this one and watch that episode and so forth. So I think it's been really good. That whole mindset is new, but it seems to be working very well.
Yeah. So what has been your biggest achievement going through all of this?
Yeah, I think I was pleased with the way we were able to respond. A lot of very anxious clients with, a real intent, and a very urgent intent, if you like, to go online in some form, whether it's live streaming or recorded videos or online content. But I think our response to that has been very good, and the fact that we've been able to encapsulate all of that into portals, not just student portal, but also trainer portals, because remembering that trainers are in the same boat in this environment. They need to be able to see their trainers. They need to be able to assess them online, respond to comments that come through. I guess what it's done for us is confirmed what Blue Gem as a technology company has been saying for a long time, and that is that you do need this kind of blended environment that's integrated. So that you can do online assessments, face-to-face assessments, and you can modularize them into a blended course, so that you can provide all of those elements and provide the flexibility for those students. So yeah, I think that has been an achievement for us, recognizing that trend that we've been following for many years is now starting to bear fruit and have that kind of value.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were putting online learning on the back burner. It wasn't a high priority. Yeah. And what we've seen through Vivacity is it's very much become the priority, because otherwise they weren't going to have a business to operate.
That's right.
And it's interesting to hear that you had a few RTOs who actually shut up shop. Do you know why that would have been? Did they?
Well, they had made the decision, to be honest with you, before the announcement of the JobKeeper subsidy and the subsidies in general. And by that point, they had laid off staff and decided, hey, this is all going to be too difficult. And I guess even when the JobKeeper allowance came back in, it was probably too difficult to rev up again, because they'd made the decision too early, I think. But in hindsight, if they had waited for that to happen, it might be a different story.
And I think not only with the training industry, but with many small businesses, it takes something like this for them to go, right, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And so it's weeding out the wheat from the shaft. And unfortunately, I think that's where it may be.
Yeah.
So,
but on the flip side, I mean, there has been a lot of inquiries recently from RTOs who have exactly that problem. How do I get online? How do I convert my content to an online environment? What are these? Tell me about an LMS. How do I use it? How does it work? So those sort of questions have been flowing quite freely recently. In fact, I released a set of blogs last night that deal with those topics. So they really are about, how to get on board with the online environment and what technologies are available and how to adopt them. So yeah, it's an area that like you, we've been thrust into. Well, it's like the technology or the platform has always been there, but the demand for it has not. And now suddenly the demand has just, grown enormously. So I guess that demand has offset the loss of clients who have decided not to proceed, beyond COVID-19 experience.
And the people who are now inquiring, do you think they had their head in the sand before and then have had this realisation? This is what I'm feeling, is this realisation it's not going to go away?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think we're all coming to the same realisation at the same time. Yeah. But there also seem to be a lot of new inquiries, believe it or not. People who had been thinking about becoming RTOs and had been interested in the online space, but were, I suppose, to some extent daunted by the fact that the industry was largely face-to-face. They're now seeing that there is an opportunity for those, kind of online specialists.
We actually have had quite a few inquiries from people whose businesses were affected by COVID-19. So they weren't RTOs, they had a company in a different area, and they were thinking about setting up an RTO, and now they've gone, okay, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I might as well do this RTO thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you find in the corporate training environment as well, the corporate training has always been LMS focused. They have always seen the convenience and the value of running online courses. within their place, because obviously a lot of what happens in many companies needs to be face-to-face, very practical. But they have always recognized that there are theory components, there are professional development components that are best done online, and that's the most efficient way to do it. As far as a workforce planning and development point of view, it works because people can learn in their downtime. Like if they're shift workers, for instance, they can do their learning when they're off shift. So that's always been a strong focus for corporate training. But in the RTO sector, the private fee for service, there has traditionally been a reluctance to the uptake of online learning, and as you say, we're seeing that turn around very dramatically right now.
And as what I see, the training industry and the event industry will never be the same again. There will be people who will expect to be able to access their training online, access events online, and the big thing that we've realised as well is this work-life balance, where we're able to, work from home, be there for kids, be there for other family members, as well as instead of spending, hours on the road travelling to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and students are the same. They don't want to be travelling about. Yeah.
We had a client who said, we were just chatting basically, and she said, I miss work. I kind of miss that kind of like community spirit that you get while you're at work. Just miss being at work. So I decided to go into the office yesterday because they were allowed to go back to work, or they had the choice, they could work at home or go back to the office. So she decided to go back to the office. And she said, the first thing that hit me was the traffic. I'd forgotten how bad the traffic was. And that set the tone for the rest of her working day. And she said, this is how it used to be. So that desire for everybody, to work from home is prevalent now, I think.
And getting more balance as well.
Being able to spend more time with your family and organise that time. The one downside we found, though, because we've been remote for a long time. We were remote before COVID came along. Probably about 50% of our workforce either works from home or works in different countries. So we've used Microsoft Teams quite prolifically as a tool for team meetings, for code evaluations, and what we call agile stand-up meetings and things like that. So that's been our kind of like tool of choice for running our kind of like divided office and remote environment. What we found using Teams is that when you integrate Teams with the other business aspects, such as we've integrated the whole Office suite with our learning management system. But when you've got that level of integration and that fluid movement between one tool and another, so that you're signed into one place, single sign-on, and you can access all your tools in one place and fluidly move between them, you've actually got a great work environment. But what I was saying was the one downside that we found of not having a face-to-face environment is in the area of internships, because we offer internships as part of our kind of like career development process. And what you find is interns or young kind of junior graduates in the industry, particularly the software industry, where there's a lot of learning, kind of real live learning taking place all the time. they have a lot of questions, and the need to ask questions frequently is best done in that face-to-face environment. So when somebody taps you on the shoulder and say, "Can you help me with this?" You can just walk over to their desk. You can look at what they're doing and so forth. That is all theoretically possible using Teams. You can share screens, you can have chats and so forth, and we do all of that. But we found that that's probably one area that was a little bit lacking by not having that face-to-face environment.
Yeah, and most probably still challenges ahead with that. Like I thought it would be hard. We had two new team members who started with us, and they were only with us for a month before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be very difficult to be able to keep them engaged and help them with their training.
Yeah.
With being in isolation, but we actually found the opposite. We actually have found that it's worked quite well.
Yeah.
There is lots of chats online, but we do Teams messaging as well.
Yeah.
We're sending each other, memes and GIFs, and we have a system called Taco where we can give kudos. It's a plug-in within Teams, and you can give kudos to another team member. And I found that has been really good for team engagement, because they're actually recognising other team members. And I think that's what happens when you're in an office. You would actually get that. We even have team lunches together virtually, and Teams drinks every Friday. So every Friday at 4:30 we stop and we have drinks together.
That's a great idea. I love that. Yeah.
So we have Frock Up Friday and Theme Thursday, where we get dressed up for the afternoon huddle, and it does keep that engagement. And I think that's been a big part of transitioning face-to-face training to online is that engagement. How do you maintain that engagement within your training? And I'm assuming that's a challenge that you're going to have within your systems moving forward.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. And look, we use Teams in that way too. We haven't used the kudos idea. I think that's a good tip. We'll definitely look into that. I think that's a great way of engaging.
And there's rewards. So what they do is they give a taco to someone. So you've got 5 tacos a day, and I've actually got rewards on there. So there's like a $50 drinks voucher. We will have movie vouchers, or it could be, pizza will be delivered to your home, that sort of stuff. So you can use the points that you accumulate to purchase something with those rewards. So a bit like Flybuys rewards.
We'll definitely look into that. Yeah, that sounds great.
So where do you see the training industry and your business supporting that in the next, 12 months' time?
Look, I think it's a great fit. The training industry, let's be honest, has needed to move for quite some time.
Yep.
I think if you compare what they're doing in corporate training with what we've been doing in the vet sector with face-to-face training, there's for many years there's been this need to adopt and move into, let's call it, the new world. And look, there's plenty of new world still to happen. When we talk about 3D animation and augmented reality and bringing that into online learning, VR, for example, virtual reality. These are all technologies that are currently a little bit too expensive and too difficult, not perhaps viable at this stage. But where I was going with simulators earlier and talking about assessments, the natural move from face-to-face assessments is to use very real-life simulators, and we've seen some amazing simulators that you're actually feel as if you're doing the thing in real life when you're working with them. But all of that is at the moment very expensive technology and quite futuristic still. But long term, that's kind of like the future direction for training and learning. And even though it is being done at the moment, it's being done on a relatively small scale. I think that'll become more mainstream as time goes on. But in the immediate future, the bright future is converting content to online delivery, being able to engage with students through portals and video conferencing tools, being able to do mentorship remotely and that type of thing. That's the near term future, and I think that's very positive for the industry. If COVID has done anything positive, then it has been to give us that shake up, that kick up the bum, if you like, to get us moving in that direction, because it's been needed.
And I think as demand rises for that virtual reality and simulation software, there will be more suppliers that will come in to address that, and then I'm assuming prices will then come down.
Yeah. Demand goes up, then the supply and therefore prices go down. Absolutely, the same old scenario.
Yeah.
But the other side of the vet sector, which I think needs serious overhaul, is the whole VETMIS compliance reporting side of things. Not that there's too much wrong with the reporting per se. I'm sure you'll have very different opinions about that aspect of it. But from a technical aspect of it, the method of creating NAT files, which are basically text files, and being able to pass them with a lot of secure or private student information included in them, all of that has seriously got to go.
It's so antiquated.
It is. And when we look at the new services like MyGovID and the new M2M for USI and so forth, the direction we're moving in and using web services to provide all of that, a VETMIS should have been reported using that type of technology years ago.
Yeah.
And it's time.
I agree. That and quality indicators, the quality indicator reporting. People do it because it's a requirement of the standards, but it doesn't give you real-time feedback that's actually going to help you improve your training products.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for me, the first thing that participants in the vet sector need to do is to get a dashboard, get KPIs on that dashboard, look at performance. What's the thing that makes an RTO great? Let's put those down as KPIs. Let's track them, and let's give visualizations of how we're performing against those. So that whole idea of having dashboards, not just completion rates and results, but also financials. How's the revenue going for my business, and what's it cost me to run this course or that course? Being able to visualize all of that data is what I think is going to make the difference between high-performing RTOs versus the poorer performing RTOs.
Oh, I definitely agree. And Net Promoter Score is the other one I highly recommend, which is surveys that you send out to your clients. It's much better than quality indicators, where they rank you out of 10.
Yes.
And then you actually identify, the next question is, how could we improve that result?
Yeah.
It was the best thing that we implemented. We implemented about 2-3 years ago now. And what we've learned from that, we have improved exponentially because we are actually getting feedback that is realistic to what we want. Most people see a survey and they think, oh, it's just too much work, I don't want to do that. Whereas a net promoter score is essentially, if they just answer that one question, you've got the data you need. And I definitely believe in a dashboard as well with that stat, because I think a lot of RTOs, they don't focus on the figures of their break-evens and what they need to run their business.
Yeah, and how are we doing with our completion rates? We've enrolled 500 students or 1,000 students this year, and how many of them have actually completed successfully? How many have dropped out? How many didn't complete successfully? And let's look at those sort of things are exactly the data that you provide to a vet miss, so that the government can report on this stuff. But we're not using the same data ourselves.
That's correct.
When I say I'm talking as an RTO, we're not using the same data ourselves to actually perform or improve the performance in our business.
And the big thing is actually identifying why. And then what needs to change in order to improve that process.
Yeah.
Okay. We're definitely on the same page with all of that. I think some of the things that we need to collect for the government is it's been there for a long time. I understand the vet is reporting and why they're keeping it consistent with the same data that we're collecting. But it's those systems of how do we manage that data, and I agree with the NAT files. It's useless for an RTO to actually be able to use, depending on how the systems that they have is able to manipulate that data so that they can get reporting and dashboards.
Yeah. I mean, from a technical point of view, we found that the structure of the data, as it's reported in NAT files, is so obtuse and poor performing that you can't use it as your live data. Let's say you wanted a list of your courses. This is a simple one, but let's say you wanted a list of your courses or the units that you deliver in your student management system. You could say, okay, well, I have to report this NAT 60 to the government, which contains all my units. So why don't I use the same table to display all the units that I have in a particular program, for example? The truth is, in that particular example, maybe that's a small example, but when you widen that out to the NAT 120, the NAT 130, and all the data that's accumulated there, you find that if you structured your tables in that way for your student management system, they would run so slow they would just not be viable. So what you end up having to do is create a high performance data engine, if you like, and then take the data from that to convert it to the structure for the NAT files so that you can submit your vetness reports. And that in itself, at a kind of designer's level is hugely inefficient. You should be able to use the one data source to do both.
So in the future, I'm hoping we're going to have more systems where we'll be able to use that data to improve our practices. And watch this space. We've got the standards are being rewritten as we spoke, as we're speaking. And it can be, let's hope that the new standards that come out are going to, because they're also rewriting the quality indicator requirements and the training package requirements as well. So it'll be interesting to see where we are in a year's time. Like, not only do we have to deal with, COVID-19 and social distancing at the moment, it's that, making sure you keep that balance between, compliance and business success, and making sure that you're running those concurrently. And any systems that you can put in place to automate that process, I highly recommend.
Absolutely.
The top three problems that we've seen the training industry have: one is compliance, two is time, and three is money. it takes time to manage your compliance that then sucks up all that time out of your making money side.
Yep.
So even if you can just get automation in for the compliance and automation in for saving time within your organisation, you're naturally going to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Angela, it was interesting what you were saying about the KPIs versus the survey method of improving your thing. When you look at things like Facebook, for example, the very simple tool of having a like there or a heart is feedback, and it's so simple to do. The big problem people have with any of these forms, whether they're KPI driven or kind of like survey driven, is the amount of work that you have to do to actually, or the resistance. Let's not call it work, because really, filling in 5 stars on a single sheet is not really work.
It's more, really resistance. Another survey. What's that going to do for me?
Yeah. Whereas, if you've got something simple that now you can say, yeah, I really like that content. So you've just done an online SCORM course, for example, and if you have the ability to like that or give it a rating out of 5, then that's instant feedback, for that course. So all the work we do, if you think of the what do they call it? The employee survey form and the
there's an EPS
survey form.
The employer provider score. Yeah,
and we wonder why people aren't going to fill in all that stuff. The only time they fill it in is when the trainer forces them to do it under the barrel of a shotgun.
That's right. That's right.
You can't leave until you've finished your survey.
That's right. Or you won't get your certificate.
Yeah, that's
the other one I hear.
Yeah. But if you compare that with something like LinkedIn or Facebook and the ability to just click a like thing to say, yep, that was good. Now what? It makes it so easy to get valuable feedback for that type of thing. So totally agree with you on that one.
Awesome. All right, last question. How do you keep yourself motivated every day?
Motivation for me has been about solving problems. It's what I love doing, solving problems. And let's face it, we got a lot of those right now. So
yes, we do.
I'm probably more motivated than ever.
It certainly keeps you going.
Yeah. So I like helping people. I like listening to, the issues that they have, sitting at a desk or over a coffee and saying, well, let's figure out how we can work this out and how we can get to a solution. If you look at, as in your organization, you have BA skills and those sort of skills, which are analysis and problem solving and putting solutions together. Yeah, for us, it's the same. And that's my technical role. I mean, my kind of like managerial role is managing director of Blue Gem Software, but my technical role is very much that business analyst role. So that's what keeps me motivated is looking at challenges and coming up with better ways to resolve problems.
Yeah, and I know for me it's very similar. I keep motivated if I'm with my clients' results. So if I'm able to enable them to move forward and come up with solutions that are going to help them within their business, then that motivates me each day. Well, thank you very much for attending our podcast. It's been awesome having a chat to you. I feel like if someone was outside, it was like they would be just listening in on our conversation. I could talk tech all day because I love tech. So, thank you very much. And we look forward to catching up again with you soon.
Thanks, Angela. And yeah, that was a great session. I enjoyed the chance to talk about those things. And I think the questions were really good. They kind of like drove the type of responses that I was keen to get out there to and if any of your kind of audience is looking for those type of technical solutions or needs help really in that transitioning process, then very much happy to work with them on that.
Yeah, and we'll have your details also with the podcast, so they'll be able to get in contact with you, and you can have a look at bluegem.com.au, which has a range of information on there for both the corporate and the RTO and international student sector. So you can definitely go grab some information there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angela. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell. Do you know someone else who could benefit from learning about opportunities and strategies to provide training online? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us reach listeners just like you who can benefit from our content. The Education in Isolation podcast is proud to be part of the Experts on Air podcast network.